Good vach. My name is Avi Tenenbaum. I was mechaven to Rabbi Elephant. I wasn't sure to say good vach or not, because that's what you say, and it's a bracha. We hope that it will get better, but it's not such a good vach. I also feel the trauma. We're all feeling it. This is an event that affects all of Klal Yisrael. You didn't have to know somebody personally there to have, to be allowed to feel something. This is something that we're all sharing together. It's an incredible zchus to speak to such b'nei Torah, the Chavayda Talmidei Chachamim in the Laim Dei Torah. Well, we're going to say a few words, exactly like what Rabbi Elephant said. It's like breaking a foot. Trauma is something real. It's something measurable. It's something that can stay with a person his whole life. Interesting thing is, what was the biggest trauma we can think of for Klal Yisrael in recent history was the Holocaust. They found that people, Nitzolei Shoah, people in the Holocaust, they had trauma till the day they were nifter, 90, 100 years old. This is something that can stay with us for a long time. It's right to talk about. It's a mitzvah to talk about. Every person could take care of it. We're going to give some guidelines tonight. But again, I'm going to be mechazek this divrei Reb Elephant. Everyone should go to the Rebbe afterwards, have a conversation, and understand where they're holding, what they need. Some people might need more, and that's okay. And it's a mitzvah. You shouldn't be embarrassed about it. So, I said my name is Avi Tenenbaum. I've been working in this field for a number of years. Whether it was going to war, whether it's going to big forest fires, the Pittsburgh massacre, the shul, I don't know if you remember a few years ago, 12 people that were murdered, Hurricane Harvey. I go to big disasters and all sorts of events around the world, and we have conversations. And tonight we're going to have a conversation. If anyone has a question, you could ask. We're going to try to leave time at the end for questions. But I think it's important to have a conversation. There's a lot of things that everyone's feeling, that everyone's thinking. Maybe some people are afraid to talk about it, but this is a safe place, and we're allowed to talk about anything. And I'm going to try to address as much as I can come up with. But if there's something that somebody here in the tzibur wants to talk about, we're going to make sure that there's time that somebody can ask. And if you don't feel comfortable, then you can go to your Rebbe right afterwards, and that's what they're here for. And you can have that discussion. So I learned in Torah Moshe when I was a bachar, then I learned in the Mir. I'm still learning today, Baruch Hashem. There can't not be a Ben Torah. Still try to learn today in the morning and also at night. Interesting thing to start with, right across from this building, I don't know if it's still there today, but there used to be some Mir diras right across. I had a friend back when I was in the Mir 16, 17 years ago, who was a bacher in the Mir, just like you. And I walked into his dira one day, and my friend was crying. Very nice bacher, good friend of mine, and he was crying. Something sad happened to him, whatever it was, something personal, and he was crying. His name was whatever it was. And I said, Shlomi, why are you crying? What's going on? And I thought there was something wrong that he was crying. He suffered a loss, somebody in his family. And he said, it's okay to cry. I know it's okay, there's nothing wrong with me. If a person suffers a loss, or if something sad happens, they're allowed to cry. I was like a big chiddush to me. I was a bacher then. I didn't know that. Like Rabbi Elephant said, I thought that if you cry, it's a sign of weakness. So I had this friend of mine in the Mir. He said, no, it's okay to cry. And he cried. I held his hand. I started to cry. It was a big musar haskel for me as a young bacher. It's okay to cry. We have a guf. We have an neshama. We have a mind. We have feelings. We have thoughts. We're going to talk about this tonight. But anything that we're feeling in light of the event that happened is okay. Even to cry. And even to cry here, and even I might cry here. It's right to cry. You don't have to cry. But anything that we feel is okay. So, the first thing I'm going to say is this is a developing story. The event happened. There's still people that are missing. There's still people that are injured. There's levayas. It's so early. We're really in the beginning of this story. It's a developing story. There are going to be stages of this story. Every disaster, every traumatic event has stages. In the beginning, we're shocked. We're surprised. It's unthinkable. In Hebrew you say, bilti nitfas. It's something you can't put words to it. It's like crazy. It's surreal. There's a word in English, surreal. It's like, did that really happen? Maybe it's a dream. Can't even believe that something like this would happen. I'm also a first responder. No first responder dreamed that this would happen. All the plans that they made, they never expected this to happen. Nobody thought this would happen. This is shocking. People told me Even people that were here as first responders during the intifadas in Eretz Yisrael, the Rabbeim will remember the intifadas. I remember the two bus bombing over here. They said this was worse than that. This was an unbelievable event. And this also happened to Bnei Torah, and a lot of us were there. It's unprecedented. It's really unbelievable. That's the word. It's unbelievable. What is unbelievable? You can't believe that it happened. So the first thing I want to tell the Bnei Torah here is, I'm giving you validation that it's unbelievable. It's taka, not believable. And it's okay to feel that. It's okay to think that. And because it's unbelievable, the mind plays all sorts of tricks sometimes. Sometimes a person, dafka, doesn't feel sad. Sometimes a person even laughs. You know how many times I went to a traumatic event? Very traumatic event. People laugh. It's not because anything's funny. Just, they don't know how to deal with the situation. It's unthinkable. You can't grab onto it. Every piece of information that you hear, you know where to put it. So if your Rebbe in Shir mentions a Yisaid in Chazaka, you have some Yisaid from the K'tzais about a Chazaka, right? You file that away, you put it in a drawer, next time you need it, you pull it out and you use it, right? This type of information in the brain, there's no drawer for it. There's no place to store this type of information. And so it kind of bounces around, and we're trying to figure out what to do with it, and we carry it with us. And even when we don't want it there, it's still there. And it's 3 a.m. and we're in our bed, and it's still there. There's no place to file it away. We have to maybe create one. We're going to talk about that. And that's a little bit of the Avodah. I think the fact that we're even getting together now is an incredible thing. We're showing validation that this exists. It's something worth talking about. It's okay to talk about it. It's something to work through. It's a mitzvah to work through. And we're going to get through it together. Klal Yisrael is very strong. We've been through a lot of things. We're going to get through this too. But we have to work through it. I'm going to give a little bit of a timeline when these types of events happen, because it's important to know a little bit what to expect. The professionals that deal with this type of fields, these types of traumas, they say that in the very beginning, the first few days after such an event, it's very, very normal to feel anything under the sun. A person can have no appetite. A person cannot stop eating. He doesn't want to get out of bed. He's sleeping all day. He has headaches, and it's not even physical. It's coming from trauma. He has thoughts, he has visions, he has memories, he has flashbacks, he has anxiety, he has depression. Anything is okay. It's normal. It's within the realm of what we would call a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. It's a very famous line that the professionals in this field use. It's a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. Ad kedei kach, it's so normal that these first few days, if a person feels the worst thing he's ever felt in his life, and his thoughts are racing, and he can't sleep, and he can't eat, and he's going Meshuggah, it's not considered a mental health issue in any way. That doesn't mean you shouldn't deal with it, but it means it's okay to feel that. It's okay to be there. It's considered a normal reaction. So I want you to know that. I want everyone here to know that, because what happens a lot of times, in my experience, is that somebody goes through a traumatic event, and all sorts of symptoms show up. All sorts of things happen to his mind, and to his feelings, and to his body, to his sleep, and to his appetite. He can't function. Something's different. He panics. He gets all worried. He says, "Oy vey, what's going on with me? I'm going crazy. I don't know what to do." He starts to panic. So I'm coming to tell you it's okay. It's okay. And it's okay to feel trauma. I'm feeling trauma today. I didn't realize how much I felt till today. I cried yesterday. Today I took my son to shul. And I was in that place right before it happened with my 2 kids, 2 older boys. I feel tremendous trauma today. I was walking to shul. All of a sudden the memories came. That's normal. It's okay. I want everyone to know that, and to tell that to your friend if he's experiencing anything. It's so fresh. There's no place to put this information. It's okay. After a few days, usually, it's a bold word to say, but I'm going to say it. Usually, the bite, the oomph of these feelings goes down a little bit. So, this is not a halacha Moshe Sinai, so I'm going to give numbers, but I don't mean exactly those numbers, and you look on the clock. I don't mean that, okay? But the professional world says that up to 3 or 4 days after such an event, we can feel a whole range of symptoms, of feelings, of thoughts. We can have very powerful questions without knowing the answer. All sorts of things. We'll address that. And we said that that's normal. After 3 or 4 days, that usually goes down a little bit. Not necessarily totally, but you start to notice by yourself, you feel a relief. Things start to get better. The world starts to move on. You start to understand. Your symptoms start to decrease. You feel a little bit easier. You're able to function better, move around. That's usually what happens. Then there's going to be a group of people. I don't know what we'll be with here. Not a Navi. But there's usually, according to science, a group of people that they're going to keep having some challenging feelings for a week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, even for 4 weeks. That could happen too. And of course, obviously, I'm going to tell you, don't feel bad. Go to a Rebbe, speak about it. Go to a professional through your Rebbe. Do whatever it is you need to do, take care of it. But that could happen. I'm just letting you know it could happen. I'm not saying it will happen. I hope it doesn't happen. But it's okay if that happens too. There's a group of people that the difficulty stays with them longer. Even that, most people in that situation, it also goes away. Then there's a third group of people, it's already a month, and it's still stuck with them. It's still there. Okay, that's another group of people. Those are the people that I would be most concerned about, and I would ask you that if you find yourself being one of those people, please, I beg of you, go to your Rebbe, speak to your Rebbe. Even if you didn't until then, make sure you get help. Okay, but the chizik I want to give you is, most of this is going to get a little bit easier. Human beings have resilience. We're resilient. We're able to bounce back from very difficult things. Klal Yisrael, look at the tzars Klal Yisrael went through. Look at all the things Klal Yisrael went through. We keep coming back and coming back. There's a koyach in us that we're able to keep coming back. It's resiliency. That's the word in English, resiliency. So over the next few days, Be'ezras Hashem, we're going to get more koyach. We're going to come back. If we need assistance, we need help from our Rebbe, from some professional, Adarabah, go for that. Do that. I encourage it. Nothing to be embarrassed about. We said some of the symptoms. I'm just going to speak about it for a second. It's good to know. Really, anything is worthy, is possible to feel. The word everything is the symptom. Anything that you feel, you could feel. Okay? But, like I said before, we spoke about sleep disturbances. We spoke about changes in appetite, changes in mood. People might become withdrawn. They don't want to speak to anybody. They just want to hide away in their little corner somewhere. People might stop doing certain activities. They feel very lethargic. They'll feel very confused, very overwhelmed, very scared. Sometimes I don't know how this is going to play out yet, but sometimes people, connected to the event that happened, they're going to be afraid of doing something else. So maybe somebody's going to be afraid to go on a bus when there's people pushing to go on the bus because that's similar to what they saw, what they felt. Things like that can happen. That's symptoms. It's all okay. We're going to talk about what to do about it now. We're going to encourage you to speak to your Rabbeim, but don't panic about it. It's okay. And these feelings, I had some uncomfortable feelings today. I cried yesterday. I'm not embarrassed to talk about it. Nothing wrong with that. It's part of being a yid. It's part of being a human being. It's part of feeling. We have the gift of feeling. With feeling, by the way, you're able to do so many things. You're able to be mishtatif in a simcha with your friend. You're able to have simcha satayra. If sadness, you're able to, because we have the ability to feel sad, we could feel sad for the Beis HaMikdash, Sar Shechina, we could be noisy b'al chaveroi. We have feelings, and we use them for mitzvahs. So these feelings are coming out now, and it's okay. On the realm of thoughts, sometimes we have images that get stuck in our mind. Something that we saw. Maybe it's something that we heard. Maybe we heard somebody yell out, and this is very traumatic to us. Maybe we weren't even there, but we saw a picture of it. We heard a recording of it, or we heard our friend talk about it. That's okay too. That could also happen. Okay, so maybe there's images, there's sounds, maybe a smell. Sometimes there's a smell that triggers us. There's something in the trauma field called triggers. Oh, you're walking down the street, all of a sudden, a sound similar to what you heard, you hear it again on Rehov Beis Yisrael, and all of a sudden you start to feel like tremendous stress. You don't even know what happened. But there's all sorts of subconscious cues, triggers, that are similar to where you were. Oh, it turns you on, it triggers you. That could happen too. Okay, so in the realm of thoughts, we can have thoughts that are stuck. We don't want to be thinking about something, but it keeps coming back. Intrusive thoughts, thought rumination, thinking again and again and again, not able to stop thinking. That could happen. Feelings, right, on the level of feelings. We know what feelings are, right? We could feel sad. We could feel angry. We could feel depressed. We could feel trauma. It's a certain feeling. It's a certain feeling. I felt it today. It's a certain feeling. Right? We can have all sorts of changes in our mood and in our feelings. After such an event, it's very common to have questions. I don't know if anyone here has questions. Sometimes we have questions. I'll give you some examples of questions people asked me from the time it happened till now. And then I'm going to tell you what I answered them. You might be surprised. They said, why did this happen to them and not to me? I was there also. How come I survived and they didn't? Right? People sometimes have questions like that. People have questions, why did this happen on such a holy day, in such a holy place, to such B'nai Torah? Why did this happen? You have to know, when we ask questions in such an early stage, I don't know the answer. I don't know if you can find an answer right now. Maybe one day you'll find it, maybe you'll never find the answer. But there's a reaction to trauma that we ask the question. That's what I want to bring your attention to. We ask lots of questions. And it could be we're not even looking for an answer. It could be that's our way of expressing surprise or expressing shock. Right? You ever had a good friend that was single for a long time and you got engaged and somebody came in and told you and you said, what? You're asking a question. What? Right? It's a question, but it's really just a way of expressing shock. That happens too. So we can have questions and be asking questions. Maybe we'll even approach our Rebbe and ask a question. Could be we're not even looking for an answer. It's a way of us talking about, I'm so shocked. I'm so surprised. That could happen too. Before we continue, does anyone have any questions? Okay. So the question is, what to do about it? What should we do with our feelings? Until now, so far, let's review for a second. So far we started by saying that this is a national event. This affects all of Klal Yisrael. It's okay for everyone to feel something. We spoke about the different symptoms, the thoughts, the feelings, the questions. We validated anything that any bacher here or any person might feel. Right? The question is, well, now what do I do with it? Okay, Avi, it's normal. Now what? What do I do about it? I can't go to sleep for 3 days. What am I supposed to do? So, there's a lot of ways of finding the answer to that. But the first answer I'm going to give is I'm going to invite every person on their own to take a pen and paper. Right? Every bacher has a pen and paper, right? In the Mir in my days we had these Kohinor notepads, the little notepads for a shekel, right? Everyone takes a pen and paper. You sit with yourself for a second, and you think for yourself, what would help me when I'm feeling sad? What would help me right now? What's going to help me feel a little bit better? Maybe I need to speak to somebody. Maybe it's a friend. We already encouraged everyone to speak to their Rebbe. Maybe to speak to a professional. So you should go to your Rebbe to ask him how to find a person like that. Maybe I need to go for a walk. Maybe I need to listen to music. Maybe I need to take it a little bit easy. Maybe I need to get some sleep. Maybe I need to stop looking at the news. I don't know where everyone gets their news from, but by the way, when you talk and look at things and look at pictures and videos, it makes it worse. Maybe I need to stop doing that. Maybe I need to stop being Isaac so much in all the details and pirtei pratim of the story. So I'm inviting everyone, take a pen and paper, take a few minutes by yourself, each person by himself, and to think about, what do I need to do right now to feel a little bit better? What do I need to do right now? And you might find some idea. You'll say, that would be a good idea. That might make me help, feel a little bit better to get through the next few days, or the next 24 hours. Maybe it's hard to sleep tonight because we're thinking about, how did I lose my friend? How did this happen? Take a break for a minute. Think for 2 minutes. What can help me right now to feel a little bit better and to be able to increase my chances of sleeping better? Maybe I should take a hot shower. Maybe I should listen to some calming music. Right? So I'm inviting you to think of that on your own. Every person knows himself, or he should know himself. That's one of the Avodas and Avodas Hashem. You should get to know yourself. You should get to know what you need. Everyone can do that. That's number one. Number two, I hope that everyone here has a friend. And if you don't have a friend, that's also important. You should have a friend. Go to a good friend. Go to your roommate. Go to your friend. Speak about it together. If you want to speak about it, speak about it. Maybe you'll come out with an eitzah together of a way to cope, a way to feel a little bit better. Okay? We're talking right now about all the koshi, all the feelings that we're feeling, the difficult feelings and the thoughts and the questions and the symptoms. What do we do with them? We want to be practical. It's true. Avi told you, it's normal to have. You don't have to panic. Okay, but I want to go to sleep. But I have to eat. I want to learn. First of all, you should know, you're learning, you might be a little bit less focused over the next few days. That's okay. Don't blame yourself for that. Try your best. Do what you can. Speak with your Rebbe about, how you have to have this week, how it will turn out for you. But This has a profound impact on the way we think and the way we feel. It can take our focus. I once saw an amazing study. Thinking a lot, in other words, thinking too much, can take up to 20% of a person's energy. Can you imagine that? You could just be exhausted just thinking about all the news and all the sad stories and the losses that we had. You'll be exhausted just from that. So take care of yourself. Okay, so practically everyone can try to figure out a way for himself, maybe with his friend, definitely with his Rebbe. What can I do to get through the next few days a little bit easier? Maybe I need something more than that. Maybe I need a therapist. There's therapists out there that they've learned a lot of years. They have a lot of experience. They have very special techniques, very fancy techniques, how to help people to feel a little bit better in these ways, how to resolve these things, how to make a drawer. We said before, it's like information bouncing around. There's no drawer to put the information, so they'll know how to make a drawer for it, how to put it in, how to put it away. What are our expectations, by the way? What are our expectations? What do I mean by that? I'm busy telling you right now that it's very normal to feel whatever we feel. I validated it for you. I told you it's okay. I told you it's a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. The Seder. Now that we have this talk, let's say you come up with different ways to cope, different ways to feel a little bit better. It's magically, the tsar is going to go away. Is that our expectation? Oh, I'll listen to music. The feelings will magically go away, right? Magic pill. So that's not my expectation. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's healthy and it's normal to feel tsar for Klal Yisrael, to feel tsar that we lost a friend or a ben yeshiva. That's normal. You might have that feeling for a long time. Klal Yisrael might be carrying this for a number of weeks, a number of months, I don't know. That's okay. What we're talking about now is dealing with feelings that are a little bit too much that a pasha can't function. A person can't function without sleep, right? So for that, we're trying to deal with that. We're trying to see how can I navigate those feelings a little bit better. But the goal isn't to not feel anything. That's not the goal. Klal Yisrael is going to be in Avelis. There's Levayas now, one after the other after the other. There are still people missing. There's so many things still going on. This is a developing story, like we said before. There's parts we don't even know yet. So it's okay that we're going to feel sad for some time. Klal Yisrael is going to feel sad. Mamish. In the whole world, they're feeling sad about this Maisa. Even people that weren't in Meron, people that never went in their life to Meron, people that don't know a single person that was nifter personally, they're feeling sad. I know for a fact. Okay? This is something we're going to carry together as a nation for a few weeks at least. So I'm not trying to take that away. It's okay to feel that. There's times for that. Right? Okay, there's a time for every single thing. If that's what Klal Yisrael is doing right now, that's what they're going to do. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is feelings where I can't eat. Well, you have to eat. Feelings where I'm so depressed, I pasha can't function, I'm so sad, I'm so tzabrachen, I can't get out of my bed. Okay, that's what we're talking about. But once you can get out of bed, if you feel sad, you know what? I also feel sad. We're going to feel sad, and that's okay. And that's how we're going to deal with this. We're going to process this. We're going to recognize it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get through it together as Klal Yisrael. I'm sure there are many, many things coming that we don't yet know that are going to help Klal Yisrael to work this out, by the way. Whenever a person has a loss, and especially when a nation, when Klal Yisrael has a loss, there's all sorts of rituals that we're going to do. So this is very early. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but we're going to see they're going to do things Ilui Nishmas, and they're going to take on different Kabbalahs and finish Mishnayos and start new organizations, L'Zecher, this one and that one. Those are the ways that Klal Yisrael and people that have a loss try to hold on to it, try to make meaning out of it. But we're not even there yet. We're in the beginning. Right now we're just in shock. We're reeling with feelings, with emotions, with thoughts, with questions. That's what we're holding right now. We're going to come soon into a place of mourning, into a place of grief. Avelis. We're not in Avelis yet. We're before Avelis. We're in Einin. We're before. We're dealing with all the technical things right now. We're not even there. But we'll get there. We're going to get there soon. I can't emphasize enough the importance of social support. What is social support in English? One of the most powerful things that a person has to deal with difficult things is other people. Talking to other people. Talking to a friend. Making a time to talk to the Rebbe. It's one of the most important things. After all the fancy, schmancy, scientific therapeutic methods and different things, nothing will ever take away the power of people talking together, people sharing things with each other. Now, there's no mitzvah d'oraisa necessarily to go to your roommate and force him to talk to you. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying right now that you should force your friend to talk to you. Shimon, if you don't talk about what happened, it's going to be really bad. I don't think that's our place. I don't think a bacher, he has to force his friend to talk. But I think it's legitimate. We can ask our friend Shimon, if you want to talk about what happened, I'm happy to hear. And we can listen to our friend non-judgmentally. Right? What does it mean non-judgmentally? We're not jumping in and stealing the conversation and telling him what he should have done. No, we're just listening. We're listening. It's a very important skill to have for Avodas Hashem, by the way. For marriage, for a lot of things. Your Rabbeim, when you talk to them, they listen to you. They don't cut you off. They listen. Right? When we daven, Hashem listens. So we can go to our friend that maybe is having a little bit of a hard time. We can say, hey Shimon, I care about you. If you want, I'm here to talk. If you want to talk about anything, don't force him. But if he wants to, he should know that you're available. I think that's legitimate between two good friends. I think that's a fair thing to say. Right? Okay? Now, as far as us, as far as the individual, should I talk about it? Should I go out of my way to say every single detail that happened and describe the most graphic details and get down to the pirtei pratim? So here's a few little guidelines for that. I'm in Hatzara, so unfortunately, part of the world until Mashiach comes is that people are nifter. It's part of the world, right? Part of the chet, eitz adas, people are nifter, right? So we do CPR on people. After a person is nifter, after a CPR, there's always a wise guy, medic, that he goes to the family. He says, you have to now see the nifter because the Chevra Kadisha is going to take him away. Go into the room. They push him in the room. Is that the right thing to do? Or you have the opposite. The family wants to go into the room to see the nifter and they stand in the way. They say, no, don't go in. You can't see him. You should remember him the way it was this morning. Don't go in. What's the right way? The answer is, what you need to do, what you feel is right for you, that's what you should do. What we, as people who are feeling trauma right now, who are feeling sadness and grief, what do we need to do? If I feel that I need to tell the details to the right person, and I'm not saying that that's a bacher, but maybe to my Rebbe, maybe to a therapist, then I should do that. Then I should share that. If I feel that, I could speak about it in a general way, but there's no mitzvah d'oraisa right now for me to go say every single detail and what this guy's face looked like and what the sound was like. There's no mitzvah, you have to go out of your way to do that, if you're wondering. But if you feel that you need to do that, then taka, there's chashivas to that. That's what the science finds about these things. People should be in touch with other people, and especially with the Rabbeim. We're encouraging every single person here to go to the Rabbeim, and that's why they're here. And they're going to listen to you, and they care about you, they love you, they dedicate their whole lives to you. You should speak to them afterwards. Everyone should make a time to speak to their Rebbe. But how much do you have to go out of your way to say the details? That's up to what you feel is right for you. Everyone should have self-awareness. We should feel what's right for me. And your Rebbeim, they're experienced educators of several decades. They're going to know if maybe you're not willing to say things that you should say. That's going to be part of their place too. And they're going to try to pay attention to that. I'm going to speak for 3 more minutes and then we're going to leave time for questions. We said that this is a developing event. It's still happening. It's very, very early. The next stage, after we overcome our shock, after we overcome being surprised, and we start to notice and feel in our hearts really, really what's going on, and this is what happened, and accept it, Klal Yisrael is going to move into a stage of grief, a stage of avelus, a stage of mourning. It's too early for that now, but we're starting to slowly get in that direction. When that happens, our feelings might change too, and our thoughts might change too, and our emotional needs will fall into place as well and follow that as well. Okay? So, I don't know if this is a mashal that anyone here can connect with, but a bacher that is dating, he thinks a certain way, he gets engaged, he has other thoughts, he's about to get married, it's a week before his chasana, he has other thoughts, right? As the story progresses, his feelings and thoughts evolve. So, I'm just going to take the opportunity to speak about this because this is the time that we have. Once Klal Yisrael gets through the time of Avelis, that's when Gedolei Yisrael and your Rabbeim are going to try to figure out together from Das Torah, what does it mean? What do you do with this? What's the lesson to take from it? But we're still before that. We're not there yet. That's a later stage. That's a later stage. You can't go to a guy right now who's feeling tremendous sorrow in this early stage and to pull out some, chazal that you learned the other day and try to be menachem the guy. It's too early for that. We're not there yet right now. We'll get there, but we're not yet there. Once we get there, we get there. I can't not be in Yeshivas Mir and not mention something that I learned, because this is a makam Torah. So I'm just going to tell you something that I learned on Shabbos. In Avos Reb Nassan, there's a story with Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai that it says he lost a son. Different Tanaim came over to him, and one Tana said, "You should be Makabel Tanchumen because Eoiv lost his children, and he was Makabel Tanchumen, and he brought a raya that he was Makabel Tanchumen." Another Tana said, "You should be Makabel Tanchumen, Rabbi Yochanan, because Aaron HaKohen, he lost his children, and he was Makabel Tanchumen." Each time Rabbi Yochanan says, "You guys aren't helping me, you're just making me feel more tzar." I'll tell you where to look it up. Very amazing thing. It's in Perek Yudalid, Mishnah Vav. And each Tana tries again and again and again to be Menachem Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan's like, it's enough, I have enough tzar now, you're adding more tzar. In the end, Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, I think it is, comes, and he gives him the right divrei tanchumin, and it works out, and he feels better, he says, Nicham Tani. But at least from this chazal, you see, there's things that you shouldn't say. Maybe you're not the right person to say. Maybe it's not the right time to say. After 6 or 7 tries, they were Menachem Rabbi Yochanan. But before that, they caused them a lot of extra tzar. So that's where we're holding right now. Once we get to that later stage, then there's a place. That's when our Rabbeim are going to tell us how to hold on to this from the perspective of Torah. What do we do with this information? How do we understand this? Right? That's going to come later. We'll leave it at that for now. There's more to say, but like I said, I think the main things have been said. I want everyone to know. Again, I know I repeated this 5 times. I'm going to say it again. It's really okay to feel whatever we're feeling. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel sorrow. It's okay to have racing thoughts. It's okay to feel depressed. It's okay to not want to get out of your bed. It's okay to not be eating and not be sleeping. It's all okay. And we're all in this together. We're going to get through this together. I think it's so beautiful that Yeshivas Mir had everyone come together to talk about this. It already gives such a takeoff, such a validation to what's going on. Your Rabbeim, they love you so much. They're here to talk with you right afterwards. We're going to get through this. It's not pashut. But we're going to be strong. We're going to get through this. Klal Yisrael is resilient. People are resilient. We're going to bounce back. We're going to take it one day at a time. It's going to be a little bit challenging the next few days. Each person, like I said, I'm going to encourage you. Use some self-awareness. Take a minute. Take a pen and paper. Think to yourself, what can I do that's going to help me get through the next few days a little bit easier? Speak to the Rabbeim. I'm going to leave time for questions now if there's any questions. Any questions?
One is feelings of grief. He has the ability to subdue them to the extent that he has a regular day. Should he continue to do so?
So that's a great question. If a person has feelings of grief, should he subdue them or not? What should he do with those feelings? I would encourage you, and that's an excellent question, and thank you, Bechal, for asking the question. Excellent that you asked the question. Bechal. Whatever we're feeling, that means that that's what we need to be doing right now. That's where we are. We don't want to ignore that. We don't want to cover that up, hide it, run from it. And Adarabah, when we do things like that, it comes back. It doesn't even help. It's just going to come back later, like Rabbi Elefant said in his Divrei Psicha. If you don't deal with these things the right way now, it comes later. It's okay to feel grief. It's okay to feel that. Notice that you're feeling that. See what it's like in your goof to feel that. Tell your friend. Say, friend, can I walk around the block with you for a few minutes? Tell him what you're feeling. Share it. Just share it. He's not your psychologist. He's not going to do anything fancy, but he's going to listen. Talk about it. Don't subdue any feelings. Feel your feelings. You feel like you want to cry? I'm encouraging you to cry. Nothing wrong with it. You feel sad? Feel sad. That's okay. And by the way, the other way as well. This is important to mention. Some people feel bad that they don't feel bad. It's also okay to not feel bad. Because whatever you feel is what you feel. You don't have to now force yourself to cry, because, right? It doesn't work that way. We have a very delicate machine. The human body and the neshama, it's the most complex thing in the Bria. It's an amazing machine. If it feels something, that's what it is. If it doesn't feel something, that's okay. There's another matziv where a person feels feelings, but they're repressed. He doesn't know how to get them out. He knows that they're blocked up inside. He wants to get them out, but he's not used to expressing his emotions. He doesn't know how to do it. He doesn't have the right words. He doesn't know how to feel. That happens. By the way, it's a skill. It's a skill to know how to feel your feelings. There's an important technique. I'll just tell you right now. Discuss the shoyah. There's a very famous technique called name it so you can tame it. I think that's how the original psychologist, that's how he called it. Name it to tame it. If you feel something, give a name to it. Oh, I'm feeling sad right now. Oh, 1 second. Notice, think inside, look inside. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling scared. Name it. Give it a name. Try to give it a name. Take a pen and paper, if this is hard for you. Make a list of feeling words. I've done this with a lot of people. Make a list of feeling words. Write down all the words you know in English that describe feelings. And then look at that list and say, which one fits what I'm feeling right now most? This one? Not that one. No. Oh, that one. Circle it. When we're aware of what we're feeling and we allow ourselves to know that and to feel that, that's what lets it to come out, to be expressed. That's very, very healthy. That's what helps us to process these things and to move on. Excellent question. Any other questions? Yeah.
A very common thing to do with the situation is minimization, where somebody else had it worse than me or somebody else. Every person thinks about another person and minimize the amount of thought somebody puts onto themselves.
Excellent question. So a lot of times people compare. The Shayla said a lot of times people compare. Other people had it worse. There's families that they lost 2 brothers together, whatever it was. There's other tragedies in class about that whole families were wiped. There's all sorts of things you can try to come up with and compare. And this Maisa and other Maisim. There's no contest. And the fact that somebody had something different than you doesn't take away from what you're feeling. And it doesn't belittle it. It doesn't take away the erech. You know how many people told me over the last few days that they feel bad, that they feel sad, because they're in New York and they weren't in Meron. And like, why should they feel sad if they were in New York? But that's not how it works. If you're in New York and you feel sad, that's okay. If you don't personally know a person that was nifter, but you feel really sad, oh, there's something wrong with me. Or maybe it's gaiva. It's okay. This is Klal Yisrael's tragedy. And what you personally feel is yours. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving you this nisayon, this situation to deal with. That's your thing. And nothing else can take it away, and nothing else can belittle it, and there's no contest, there's no competition. It's yours. And that's okay. It's not, there's no comparison. It's something about you, and it's something for you, and the Eibishter, and your Rebbe, and your friends, to work out, and to learn from, and to grow from. And that's it. Excellent question. Any other questions? Yes. Just talk to me.
Some people feel most comfortable with just so to speak, to move on, not to talk about it, not to think about it. Is that particularly unhealthy, or is that also coping?
That's an excellent question. So, we have 3 matzavim. We have 3 situations. We have a situation where a person shares everything on his heart. He turns to his friend. He tells him everything that there is to say. He speaks to his Rebbe. He goes to a therapist. Whatever it is he has to do. You've got a guy like this. We've got your guy, which is, he doesn't feel right now like he has to go over the top, as they say. He doesn't have to go out of his way to talk too much. He wants to move on. There's a third guy, which we mentioned him 2 questions ago. He has repressed feelings. He has feelings that they're really there. He just is afraid to face them. He's in denial of his own feelings. He doesn't know how to deal with them. They're very scary. They're very overwhelming. What do people do when they're scared and overwhelmed? You run the other way, right? That's what human beings do. That's a natural instinct that the Eibishter put in us. Oh, you're afraid, you run. Some people are not going to talk to their Rebbe, and they're not going to get help, because they're really afraid of talking about certain things. They're afraid of what maybe the Rebbe will think about them when they bring it up. Right? They're afraid that they're going to sound like a meshuganer. They're afraid people are going to think that they're crazy or that they're weak. Which, this is what Rabbi Elephant was addressing, this psicha. That we don't want. I agree to you, it is very important. This is an established fact in the trauma world. It's very important to continue with routine, to move forward. That's true. That also doesn't take away from what we as individuals need to do to work out things that we're feeling. And it shouldn't be a steer. So it's a good question. We want to make sure we're not holding anything back that we should be discussing, that we should be working out. That's for sure. Once we're already not holding anything back and hiding from our feelings and running away, Kirtan ish v'ish, everyone has to know for themselves what they need to do with it. And that's why Rabbi Elephant said, the default is, the expectation that your Rebbeim have of you is that every Bachar speaks to his Rebbe for even just a minute, even just a few minutes for your Rebbe to check in with you. That's the default. And together you'll figure out which one of these people you are. That's a very good question. Any other questions? Yes?
You don't feel anything, does that mean that you don't care?
If you don't feel anything, does that mean that you don't care? Maybe it could be that there's somebody that doesn't feel something and they don't care. I'm not going to deny that there's a musig like that. In other words, I think that it's a sign of emotional maturity. And people here are young and they're different ages, and we're all developing in our minds and in our lives. I think the more profoundly we understand what happened and the impact of it and what it means, we might feel it more or less. But at the same time, I don't want to make a person who doesn't feel what his friend feels to feel guilty. Because again, everyone has a unique way that they're connecting to this event.
A boy doesn't feel. Everyone, I'm stressing again what you're saying. It's very important to feel. There's a big oil over here. Everyone has different calibrations of feeling. Do not go on a guilt trip when you don't feel. That's not what a Kosh Baruch Hu wants. It's not a test of whether you're a good person or a bad person. I'm interrupting you if you don't mind, because it's critical to stress it. And everybody does care. The right is that you're here, and everybody does care. Everybody has their ways of expressing it without any guilt trips. That's the last thing that we need to do in such an availus.
Thank you very much. 110%. Everyone feels and understands and emotes, right? Which means to show emotion differently. Everyone has a different connection to this. And that's okay. And that's why you can't compare. And that's why what you feel is individual to you, and it's okay. And I like so much, there's no mitzvah d'oraisa now to go and smash ourselves because we're not feeling what our friend felt. So that means we're bad. And that doesn't have to mean that at all. Excellent question as well.
What's the answer for your internal question? You answer the question.
What's the answer to the internal questions? That's a great question. One of the main points I wanted to make about the internal questions is that more often than not, at this stage, we might not even be looking for an answer. And maybe there is no answer, and that's the answer, at least for now. In other words, just like I can have sad feelings, and just like I can have intrusive thoughts, so I can have a question. It's a type of symptom. It's a type of reaction, right? I like to say, by the way, a mashal. Let's say a person eats spoiled chopped liver, right? He went out today for Shabbos by somebody's house. He had chopped liver. Everyone now, they ate spoiled chopped liver. Everyone's sick. Everyone's throwing up. They're going to the bathroom. They have a stomach ache. It doesn't feel very pleasant, right? It feels pretty bad. I don't wish it on anybody. But I wouldn't worry that that guy has cancer. Why? Because we know where it came from. We understand the source of how these feelings, these symptoms, arisen, right? Okay, and it will pass. It's not pleasant. We don't wish it on you. But, mistama, if you ate chopped liver that was spoiled, you'll probably feel better after 2 or 3 days or 1 day, right? So, the symptoms that we have from trauma are like that too. A lot of times, like I said before, people panic. They have all sorts of thoughts, feelings, questions. You should know, maybe without even finding the answer yet, the question will go away. Because it's a feeling. It's a reaction. It's a way of me saying, I'm shocked. How could this be? But we're not looking for someone to sit down literally and explain. Let me explain to you how it was. So they were standing here. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for my friend just to understand that I'm shocked. If you want to know what are the literal answers to that, I suggest that you wait a week, 2 weeks till Klal Yisrael is ready for that, and we're going to see our Rabbeim addressing that in their shmuzin. We're going to see the Gdolei Yisrael talk about it. That's going to come in a time to be. But don't forget that in the beginning it's a reaction. I'm reacting by asking a question. And by the way, I've seen many times somebody has one of these questions, and a big chacham comes to try to answer him, and he starts bringing him derech Hashem's and gilgulim and this and that. It doesn't go in, because he's not looking for that now. He's looking to share a feeling. He's not looking for literal answers. He's not looking to hear Arizals right now and I don't know what. That's not where he is. He's just sharing a feeling of sadness and of shock. So, did that answer your question? Okay, good. And feel free to ask. Absolutely. Absolutely. Rabbi Elephant said, feel free to ask any question, and you're not a shegetz and you're not an apikoros. Any other questions? Yes, in the back.
Sounded like your answer that you shouldn't do that. I heard a concept of overcoming your emotions and the emotions of emotions.
You heard a concept of overcoming your emotions, you said? Okay, so... Okay, the question was... Repeat the question again, just the beginning of the question. This is a complex question. I'm going to repeat the question as I understood it. So, we spoke before about, let's say a person's feeling grief. Should he suppress the feelings? So I said before, you shouldn't suppress anything. You should feel what you're feeling. Right now the Eibishter wants you to feel a certain thing, to work through a certain thing. And that's where you're at, and that's okay. So the Shayla is saying, he heard an idea about overcoming your emotions, and how does that fit together? So I'm not sure the source of what, or the context of what they were talking about. There is a time and place to overcome your emotions. Like right now, if I would break down and cry in front of you, it wouldn't be bad. There's nothing wrong with it. But it might be a little bit better if I didn't, because if I cried so much that I can't even talk and can't even think, it wouldn't be so effective. But it doesn't mean that I'm repressing my emotions. It just means that right now, I'm busy doing a certain thing, and right now it's not working for me, but I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to daiga and feel what I need to feel at the right time. Right? A lot of times I'm a medic. I'm in Atzara. I show up to a very sad call. I'm the one that's helping them. I'm a therapist. I'm a psychotherapist. I'm hearing someone's sad story. It's not forbidden for me to cry, but I need to be put together right now in order to help the other person. So there are times that I'm going to, personally, this is my personal thing, I'm going to try to overcome my feelings, but not indefinitely, not forever, just for those few minutes, just for that moment, in order to achieve and accomplish what I have to do. But I don't. It's hard pressed for me to think of a situation where a bacher has to do that. I think right now the default is that every bacher that feels what they're feeling, that's where he's at. That's what he should feel. It's hard for me to think of a case right now where it's legitimate for a bacher to overcome his feelings and kind of push them to the side. If you find a case, okay, you could do that. There's an idea of a shas hakoisha, right? That you want to really save you the. There's a word in English, catharsis, where you just break down and you cry and you just fall apart. If you can wait 3 minutes to do that with your Rebbe in a private place, okay, so gesundheit, go do that. What I care about is that nobody hides from their feelings. Nobody in the guise or in the name of, I don't know what, decides to run away from working through certain things. That's what I care about. If you find some little case where that is applicable to you to halt for 2 minutes and to wait, that's fine. But I think the standard is, you feel something, you could feel it, carry it with you, we're going to have it for a few weeks, we're going to walk around with it, and that's okay. We're stopping here. All the other questions, and all that's to come, that's what the Rabbeim are going to be here for. We're going to carry it over with them, and then, as needed, they're going to also direct you further to other things as well. Thank you very much. we should be mischazik, and we're going to carry on.
In addition to any Rebbeim over here, from after the Levayas, there's an anonymous hotline through Vada Chizuk which will be available. You can take the number down. It's 02-537-1005. You can tell your friends. 02-537-1005, where they'll be experiencing Galait and a list of different therapists and things available for Bachim. Good luck.